name is Hafizullah, sometimes Hafizullah Chishti. I teach spiritual practice in the Sufi tradition, and just what that entails is a very large conversation. That's a really hard question to answer because as many Sufis as you ask, you'll get that many answers plus one. Plus, every academic and philosopher, professor of philosophy has their own answer for that. What I can say about that is that it's really better to ask the Sufis themselves rather than go to a book. If you go to a dictionary, you're going to read Islamic mystic. And that's true, but it's only a part of the truth. And as I said, this is a very large area of inquiry. The best and broadest definition that I've come across actually came from a Turkish Sufi, Murat Yağan, who said that Sufism is the development of latent human potential through divine guidance. And so he leaves it open for someone of any religion or any path really to approach something that we call Sufism from whatever their entry point happens to be. I'll also say that the ism part of Sufism is kind of an unfortunate linguistic convention because it's not an ism, it's not a philosophy, it's not a doctrine, there are no doctrines, it's something that is arrived at through direct experience of what is most deep and essential about a human being. And what that is beyond language, and it's beyond concept, it's beyond image, it's beyond the mind altogether. And so it's almost impossible to say what Sufism is except to point in a direction. And if you really want to know what Sufism is, you need to engage in the practices, the mystical practices, the spiritual practices of the Sufis, so that you can have that experience of oneness and of essential unity yourself. And then, of course, you'll be blathering, just like I am, when someone asks you what's Sufism. The Inayati order, there's a convention in the Sufi tradition, which is that there are initiatic lineages, and organizations are kind of a secondary effect of these spiritual schools that are created and maintained and sometimes disbanded when their purpose is served by advanced teachers and adepts in the path. And so they're called orders by the academics because there's some imagined similarity with the Western monastic orders, and yes and no. What is similar is this kind of reference back to a particular teaching or transmission, really, from a particular patron saint. And so the convention, similarly to Christianity, is that the order is named after its founding patron saint. So in the early part of the 20th century, a man named Inayat Khan came from India, dispatched by his teachers, saying, bring the wisdom of Sufism to the West and unite East and West with the music of your heart. And so his Sufi initiation was through the Chishti lineage, but he also received initiations to the level of adept or master in the four major orders that operate in India. And so he brought a form of Sufi practice, even though he was himself was a Muslim. His parents sent him to a Hindu grammar school, and he slept with a Bible at his bedside table the whole of his life. And so the form of Sufi practice he brought was very well laundered of religious and cultural accretions. The sensibility in especially the Chishti order is that Sufism is not exclusively Islamic, and that you can practice and do the practices and do the self-transformation inside of any religious tradition or none at all. And so he did not ask his students to become formal Muslims. He said, keep the religion or find the religion that suits your heart. You know, that's what is the most essential thing. If you don't have a religion, so much the better, because Sufism is neither atheism nor theism, but stands between the two. And so he gave all of his teaching in English, and he was in the West for 16 or 17 years, and went back to India in 1926 and died there, and his tomb, his shrine is in New Delhi. He was India's most highly honored, decorated, awarded musician at the time that he gave it up to undertake the study of the Sufi path. And so, music. So he spoke a lot about harmony, and he spoke a lot about the music of life. There's actually a book entitled The Music of Life that was compiled from his discourses on music and its use in spiritual practice, and especially the nature of the inner sound, which is an experience that many mystics have of an inner, almost literally an inner sound, where they hear different sounds that have been in their meditation that have been described as the buzzing of bees and crickets and thunderclaps and choirs of angels. And these are experiences that just come to us at a certain level of the refinement of our consciousness and permeability to the experience outside of the mind and beyond the personal realm that most of us inhabit pretty much all of the time. And so he discoursed and taught on an enormous variety of topics about both spiritual practice and also especially, and much like other Sufis, how you actually live a spiritual life in the world of family and vocation, and how you, especially as your nervous system becomes more sensitized, because that's what happens as we become more aware, then sometimes the noise of traffic or even just the emotions of someone who's upset as they walk through the room can become unbearably abrasive. And so how to dance with life, real life, a human life, while developing this exquisite sensitivity, which also makes that life, the pleasures of life, more and more exquisite as one progresses. And how that balance is obtained, and how to move fluidly between these different conditions of life. At one level, the mystical journey is the same, regardless of your religious tradition or perhaps lack of one, because the essential mystical experience is the same for all human beings because we're all human beings. The mechanics of consciousness are just what they are. Subtle energy, what we're calling subtle energy, subtler than the nervous impulses and so forth that run the body, subtler than the biochemistry of the emotions. That moves the way that it moves. With regard to the particular vehicle, the Sufi path has much in common with yoga and with Buddhism, and in some cases the techniques and practices are almost identical, and in other cases there is great difference because the Sufi way has this particular emphasis on how spirit and how a spiritual life is lived in an embodied way, as much as the journey away from manifestation to the absolute. The importance is the movement of inspiration and breath and life force, and how that of us which is self-subsisting beyond time and space, before we're born, while we're alive, after we die, how that informs our daily life. And so there's as much emphasis on kind of the return flow back to source and the flow from source into manifestation. And the fact that Sufism, as it's usually practiced, is nominally theistic, really doesn't make a whole lot of difference when practitioners actually sit down knee to knee and just regard each other. It's like, I love jamming with Buddhists, even though my tradition is nominally theistic, because I see past all of the packaging and the language and the metaphors to what is essentially real and alive. And as I said, that's the same for all of us. And the closer we move away from the trance of the personal ego into direct awareness of unity, there's less to say about it, and we just sort of hang out and go, this is awesome, you know. Nothing. At one level. It's been around for, probably over 40 years in various incarnations, shall we say. I think the thing that's unusual is how many young people are working with me. And I don't know if that's special, but it is unusual. And it seems like a lot of spiritual groups kind of got stuck in I also see Buddhist groups and yoga groups whose constituency is mostly middle-aged people. And so the Anayati order in Seattle is a little unusual in that there is a fairly significant involvement of young people. And that's very juicy and very exciting. Well, I give a class every week here in this room, every Tuesday evening, and I figure anyone who finds their way to the front door is welcome. And one of the other senior teachers in the order is coming to visit Seattle the second weekend of November, and so we have a website which is soi-seattle.org, and you can find a calendar and the various events and classes that are going on there.